Welcome to you guys to our third and final in a series. I'm not really counting next week as part of the Making Your Course Come Alive series. We will be talking about closed captioning next week, but this is the last one specifically about creating video for your courses that we'll do in this series. We're going to talk today specifically about Camtasia Relay. If you're not familiar with that, it is a service that SNU pays for its faculty to create videos. Specifically, it's designed to be a screencast program where you record what's on your screen and maybe your face and your voice, and it's really nice for creating short lectures, as we've talked about best practices before, and I'll remind you of that here in just a little bit. So that's just kind of a little overview of what Camtasia is. So where are we going to go today? I'll just preview a little bit of what we're going to do. We're going to talk about the dashboard of Camtasia, then we'll talk a little bit about the recorder, how you actually go about recording and the options that you have there. And then additionally, we'll talk about using the recorder to go ahead and create video and options there. Then we'll revisit the dashboard and we'll talk briefly about some best practices. You'll probably be tired of hearing about best practices, especially if you've attended all three of these, because it's the same thing over and over. So you'll recognize some of those, I suspect. So let's jump right into the dashboard. The first place that you would start with Camtasia Relay is to go to camtasia.snu.edu/relay. Yeah, that's right. I'm pretty sure that link's right. And this is, you would have a login screen. You log in with your SNU My Courses username and password. It's the same username and password that you use there. And this is what you would see. So the first thing that you notice on the screen where this big red arrow is, yours wouldn't have the big red arrow, but it's probably going to have this actions necessary. This usually has a tendency to wig folks out just a little bit because they're like, oh, what do I need to do? We'll talk more about this in a minute, but basically everything under the actions necessary, especially if it's talking about screencast or YouTube or anything like that, is optional. So when it says necessary, it probably should say actions recommended. I didn't choose the language that's used here, otherwise I would have said actions recommended. So. Yeah, it's a little scary. Like nothing's gonna work if you don't do this right now. I'm really not sure how we got, or I shouldn't say how. I don't know why we have screencast.com on there. We don't provide an account under screencast.com. Although we did talk last week about YouTube, and we'll talk a little bit about how this integrates with YouTube, because they can be connected. I won't say they are. If you have an actions necessary and it lists YouTube, then it's not connected yet, but you can, and we'll talk about that in a bit. Let's see, the other thing here is profiles. So how did I get to profiles? Just click this right here, and I know you guys that are joining us virtually can't see that, so I'll move my mouse, sorry. Click the profiles button right there, and it'll take you to this page. So a couple of things that this will tell you. It will tell you the different types of profiles that you have available to you. And it lists some things that you can do with a specific profile, but basically these first few right here, classroom lecture, closed captioning, meetings, Moodle training, and professional development. Those are all different folders on the G drive, which is where all of our videos are stored. So if you choose one of those profiles, and I'll show you how to choose those profiles when you're making a video here in a minute, that's what that's doing, is it's telling it to go into a specific folder. So use your better judgment as you're deciding what you're doing. Are you creating classroom lecture? Is this a meeting that you're recording? Or is it professional development? If I was Camtasia relaying this particular training, I'd probably choose professional development. So it's just kind of a way to organize ahead of time. And then screencasts, additionally, it shows that my profile, these are available to me, and I actually have some other, I don't know why we have a YouTube copy. Basically, we have 2 options for YouTube. That confuses me, and I'm sorry if it confuses you. You can just ignore that. So you do have YouTube, and then on the next page it would say YouTube closed captioning, and again, I'll talk about those in just a second. So, let me go back here. If you click the Publish Account Setup button right here under My Profiles, you get some options, and this is exactly what yours will probably look like. It wants me to enter my email and password for screencast.com. I don't have an account with screencast.com, so I'm going to ignore that. I'm going to move right on ahead to the YouTube. And this is one where it's not a horrible idea to connect your YouTube account to this particular service. Here's why. You can create something on here and it'll automatically send it to YouTube. So you have it not only here on our server, but you have it on YouTube. There could be a couple of different reasons why you'd want to do that. If you're using YouTube for closed captioning, which we'll talk about some next week, I think I've mentioned that YouTube will automatically caption things for you, and then you can go in and edit that. You have the same option here. So you really have like 3 or 4 different ways of accomplishing exactly the same thing. But this one advantage is having it stored in both places. So that's an option for you. And basically what you would do is you would put in your username. If you chose, well, I won't even say that. You put in mine would be jbowie@mail.snu.edu, so your SNU email address and then your email password, and it will connect your account. One thing I'll point out here is if you want your default privacy for YouTube uploads, if you want it to automatically be unlisted, or you want it automatically to be private, or you want it automatically to be public, you can set that default here. The other thing you can do is put keywords in so that when it uploads from Camtasia, it'll automatically put those keywords in, it will automatically set the privacy and those kinds of things. So you have some defaults, which are kind of nice. Let me pause for questions. I've already thrown a whole lot of information at you, as you're kind of thinking and processing about this. Okay, let's go back to our dashboard. The other thing that I'll point out on the other side of the screen is this is where you would download the recorder. So this is something that's not optional, you actually have to do that. You cannot record anything until you go and download a recorder. You can download for Windows, you can download for Mac. I think there's a Linux as well. You can download for different types of tablets. The one thing about Camtasia on a tablet is you're not going to record anything that's on your screen. So if you're using an iPad or an Android device or something like that, you're not going to be recording on your screen. You're just going to be recording what the camera is showing. So that would be a way, as I mentioned last week, you can take your phone, quickly make videos, send it to YouTube. Same thing, pull up your phone, open the recorder on Camtasia, make a quick little video, it processes, and you can send it to your students. So again, several different ways of accomplishing the same thing that we talked about last week. You guys can pretty much download and install things. I'm pretty sure that I need to go into that, so I hope it's okay that I didn't actually show the next screen where it's download those recorders. The other thing that I'll point out here, though, is you can either click View All next to Presentations, or you can click Presentations and it'll show you all of your presentations. So we'll come back to this at the end just as a reminder, but a lot of times when you publish a presentation, you get this email and it says, you know, click here to view or whatever, and then people are like, I don't know how to get back to that presentation. You can always come back to your dashboard and log in and get to all of the presentations that you've done. So I think if you click one of those, it'll show you about 25 presentations. So look at the bottom, there may be multiple pages of presentations if you have more than 25. But all of these things over here are links. So you can click on those and it'll take you right to the presentation. Actually, it'll open up the page for that presentation, and then there's a separate link to view, which I recognize is a bit confusing. So I apologize for Okay, so on to the recorder. So from your dashboard, you've downloaded the recorder. Now what? Now you're ready to actually make some video. So we're going to move away from the dashboard. The dashboard is where we would come back to access anything that we needed to do to kind of manage our videos if we needed to. So you'd simply click the icon on your desktop or in your start menu or whatever, however you would get to it on whatever device you're using. There's too many devices to talk about. And it would ask you to sign in just like you did on the dashboard, same username and password. There should be a little pop-up screen, log in. And one of the other things I want to mention here, it's your username, not your email address when you're trying to log in. It's always just your username. So it's just like logging into your email. Okay, so we have some things that we need to look at here on the recorder because we have a lot of options actually on the recorder. So one of the first things that I'll point out is this button right here. If you want to display your face, basically what it does is it takes your camera and it puts a slightly transparent picture of your camera in the bottom right-hand corner. So as you're recording, think about if you're creating lecture notes or whatever it is, if you're going to show your face, don't put something that would be behind your camera down in the right-hand corner. Kind of leave, in fact, it's kind of where this, my little video icon is, but it's a little bit bigger. It's more like this, kind of be in the corner of the screen right there. Maybe a little more over towards the center. But if you click that camera, it will turn your camera on and it'll automatically be there. I can't remember if you actually see yourself or not. You do. I see some nodding heads. I can't remember.
At the beginning and then you don't.
So
you get a preview and
that's actually not a bad thing because I think we all recognize how awkward it can be to see yourself talking on camera. So maybe that's a good thing if you can't see yourself. Just don't do a whole lot of moving around like this because you may move out of the field of vision of your camera. So you want to kind of stay in the same place. Let's see what else is next here. Sorry. I need a slide number at the bottom. It'd be so much easier. Okay. Next slide. So the next thing you want to do is you want to check and see if your audio is working. So what I did was I made a noise, took a screenshot, and you can see that that audio meter turns green. It's like a level meter. On YouTube, it's over on the right side. You want to be sure that it's picking up your voice. If you have multiple microphones, you can click this button right here, and it'll open up and give you a drop-down menu where you can choose whichever microphone you want to use. For instance, if you're using one of our USB mics, if you check that out from us, or if you're using the internal mic, depending on what you have plugged in or what's available, you can choose that from there. This auto button right here is basically an auto volume. So it automatically adjusts to how loud you're talking so you don't get too loud, you don't get too soft. You have the control to click that button and turn that off, and then you would use the slider right here to turn the gain on the microphone up and down if you needed to. Okay, the next thing here is this button for hotkeys. So, what are hotkeys? They are keys that you would use, it's just keyboard shortcuts. And you get to set whatever you want. I use, on the Mac, that used to be called the Open Apple key. I think it's the Command key now or something like that. I still say Open Apple. So I use Open Apple P to pause. And so if I press those two things at the same time, it's going to pause my recording. So you go into a coughing fit, your phone rings, whatever it is, hit pause, come right back, pick up where you left off. Not a crisis. You know, you're 9 minutes into a 14-minute recording. You don't want to go do those whole 9 minutes back over again. I recognize how frustrating that can be. If you hit the stop key, you're stopping your recording. You're not going to come back and pick up where you left off. You're stopping it, and you're only going to have the option to either submit or discard. So if you're ready to stop for sure, you can use your hotkey for stop. And I'll show you there's a button for that actually. The advantage to hotkeys is that you're not doing a lot of noisy clicking. Okay, a lot of times your microphone is going to be part of your computer, especially on a laptop, so if you're clicking, it's going to pick up the clicks. So learn how on your computer, if you have one of those soft touch where you can just tap it and it's like clicking, learn how to do that if you use mouse clicks. I recommend using the keyboard instead to arrow ahead or to begin recording or stop recording. The other thing is the record/pause. When you're ready to start recording, if you hit whatever you've set up, it'll start recording. Okay, now let's talk about profiles. We kind of mentioned those with the dashboard just a second ago, but we're just about ready to record. So you need to insert a title, you can insert a description. You can come back and fix these later because you revisit these after you've recorded. So you're going to have some options on profiles. And on profiles, as I mentioned, you have these first few. We're going to skip screencast and screencast with captions because I don't fool with that at all. You have YouTube, which will send it directly to YouTube. YouTube with closed captioning. So the two that I want to talk about really right now, just real quickly, is this one that says closed captioning and YouTube with closed captioning. And well, actually, I won't talk about those now. I'll show you in a minute. The other thing you can do is upload and decide later. I don't really recommend that because I have not found a way to get back in and put closed captioning on there if you upload and decide later. So I've not done a lot with upload and decide later. Let's do it now and figure it out. So, questions about those profiles? At any time, stop me and ask a question if you have a question. Fantastic. So now you're ready to record. You click the big red button. Oops, yeah, click the big red button. Oh, notice right here, mine says selected display to record. Yours may not say that. If you only have one display, it's just going to show your display. If you have multiple displays, it gives you the option to record this monitor or this monitor. You don't get to choose just part of the monitor. You're recording the whole thing. So what that implies is if you have a widescreen monitor, especially zoom in on your text, because otherwise people it's like, you know, they need some binoculars to see what they're looking at because your text is real tiny and you've got all this white space on either side. So in Moodle, if you're recording doing a screencast for Moodle, dock all your blocks to the left side, use all the real estate you can, make the text as big as you can where you don't have to scroll side to side, where everything fits on the screen. Use as much of your monitor as you can. That's a recommendation. That's a best practice, that's a bonus. It's not on the best practices slide, so you don't have to pay any extra for that one. So now you click record and you'll get this pop-up. It won't be nearly that big. It'll be much smaller in the center of your screen and it'll say waiting and then it'll go 3, 2, 1. So it's just like somebody standing up there and doing the little snapper thingies on the video. And you're ready to go. If you don't have multiple displays, when this countdown gets done, this will go away and it won't be there anymore. So you can see that the way to control this is to click stop when you're done. If that goes away, you're like, well, now I can't stop my recording. What do I do? You know, you can Alt-Tab through and get back to it, or you can use those hotkeys, pause, bring it back up from your taskbar, and stop from there. So once you're done recording, use your hotkeys and either pause or stop whatever it is that you need to do. And you can see what I was talking about. See how kind of, I mean, this is a screenshot that I blew up for the screen, but you can see I have blocks here. That doesn't really need to be there. I should have used the whole entire thing. Should have gotten rid of those blocks. So I was doing that on purpose to show you what not to do. That's what kind of instructor I am. Just kidding. I'm just kidding. Okay, so once you're done, you have some options here. You can trim. You cannot trim from the center. You can only trim from the front or the back. So it's not a fully functional video editing program. You can cut something off the front, you can cut it off the back. If you go into a coughing fit, you're not going to be able to cut that out. So I was kind of joking when I said pause. If you know you're about to do that, then you can pause and finish and then start back. But if you get started on that, then you're probably going to have to go back and start over. You can watch the entire video, just kind of preview it. I had a 4-second video. Turn the volume up and down, and notice here that my profile, title, and description are blank. If you had put something in, that would already be there, but I didn't, so. It's telling you what server you're connected to. If you want to, you can discard it, or you can hit submit. Those are your two options. It's all or nothing. You can trim, get it exactly like you want it, hit submit, and then it begins to upload. It goes to Camtasia, processes as a video, and then gets saved on our server. So Camtasia is not the one storing these. We're storing them here. They're just processing the video for us. How many of you have ever made a welcome video on Friday afternoon, late in the day? And you're waiting, and you're waiting, and you're like, when am I going to get the email saying that my stuff has been published? The account that we have with Camtasia only pays for 2 videos at a time to be processed. So there could be a queue. Is that right, Gwen?
Yes.
Okay. There could be a queue in front of you, so you might have a 5-minute video. You're like, oh, this is going to process real quick. And then somebody's, one of your colleagues, not following best practices, has done a 2-hour video for their students, and it's processing, and it's going to take forever.
It happened to me the first time this week. I was just showing someone how to use Camtasia, and it was like 10 o'clock, and it got queued, and I thought some faculty member on campus must have Camtasia Relay maybe their whole 9 o'clock class, which is fine.
Right.
It's the first time I've ever hit that
And really the only other times that I've ever seen that happen is seriously on Friday afternoon, because online instructors are doing their welcome video for next week or transition video or something like that. So you end up with a few videos ahead of you and you're waiting. So what happens, how do you get, once you're done, you've submitted, what happens then? One thing I want to mention before we move on is you'll get this kind of pop up on your screen. And it says, if you're online, it will upload immediately. If you're offline, it'll be stored on your computer until later. So you get done with your video, you shut your computer down, and you're like, okay, the whole weekend has passed and my video is not processed. What's going on? It's still on your computer. It has not gone to Camtasia yet. So leave your computer on, make sure that it's done. You can always go back to the dashboard and look and see at your processing videos. Once you see it show up under processing, I believe it's then safe to close your computer down. It's been uploaded there. So that's something to think about. One of the options that you might get if you chose closed captioning, you might get an email like this that says, edit the presentation captions. It's being held for captioning. If you chose YouTube closed captioning or if you chose plain closed captioning, this is what you're going to get. So you then click edit the captions. I'm not really going to talk about captioning this week. We'll cover this much more in depth next week. How to edit captions on YouTube, how to edit captions on Camtasia. Very important. But more than likely, if you've not chose closed captioning, you'll simply get this video and it'll say it's ready to go. And there's your link to view. So there's the link that you can send to your students. Here's the problem with that link. I see a couple of iPads. Those of you on iPads, not going to be able to view that link. That's one disadvantage with Camtasia, is that it runs in Flash, and our iPads don't run Flash. Now, there is another link that is a .mp4. However, with the new update, you can't just go to this link and change the last little bit after the dot to MP4. It's like 3 more folders in. It's a little bit more complicated, so I don't know, maybe we're the ones who caused that, because I was like, oh man, I figured this out. We can make Camtasia play. All we have to do is change the file extension. It's not quite that easy anymore. So that's something to think about. If you know that you have students on iPads or something like that, you may want to consider using the connect your YouTube to Camtasia option. So then you have 2 different things, one of them being platform agnostic. I have to say that word again just because I love that idea. I've said it the last 2 times, right? So it's important. Okay, so let's just revisit the dashboard again just real quickly. This is a slightly different view. I'm looking at my presentations and I have the drop-down menu up right here. You can see if I had one that was processing and have a 1 there. So that's when I'm saying if you see 1 processing, then you know you can close your computer down. Or if you see that it's in the completed list, then you're good to go. Don't worry about it. So you click on that link, you click on the presentation title, and it shows you this. So it tells you where it is and where it came from and timestamp and all that kind of stuff. And this link, that's the view link. That's your link that you're going to share with students. So you deleted your email, you've lost that email, whatever, you can always come back to your dashboard and get the view link over there. So notice, again, we have multiple pages down here at the bottom that we can see videos on. If you have one that's held for captioning, it's going to show up there, and that's where you would go and edit those captions. Best practices. It's a biggie. Very important. Less is more. As I mentioned before, you need to be chunking major topics, major concepts. Cover 1 in each video. No more than 15 minutes. One of the things when you connect your account, and I alluded to this last week with YouTube, if your account is verified, you can upload longer than 15 minutes. I just assume you didn't verify your account, because then I know you can't do longer than 15 minutes, right? At least not on YouTube. But pick a major topic that you can talk about, for 7 to 15 minutes or something like that, or 3 minutes or whatever. Distill it down to the bare minimum. Use your camera. This is especially important on welcome videos, what we call weekly transition videos, where in online we're asking that you make those fresh for each class. Because, and I got that, I want to give Dr. Montgomery, he's the one who coined that phrase for me. Well, he didn't coin it for me, I stole that from him. Weekly transition videos, but I wanted to cite my source there. Where you say, I like what you guys did last week, you did a good job talking about this, so-and-so mentioned this, and so-and-so did this, where you're making it fresh every time that you teach that course. That's a really important thing and can make all the difference in a course. If you have this is what we're going to do this week, that's fine, but we still recommend something that's fresh for those students. Use a transcript. This is especially true for lecture. Meaning have a script, maybe not a transcript per se, but a script to read from. Otherwise, if you're like me, you've got the tangent that you get off on and you look up and you're like, oh my word, I did a 45-minute video, what now? And you have none of what you said was in your transcript. So that's an important thing. That'll kind of help you stay on topic. Practice, especially if you're doing lecture. But practice making video. Just make a video. I promise you'll feel much more comfortable the more you do it. If you notice there, I had like, 50 videos. And I've only been using Camtasia since I started here a year ago, January. So, I'm not saying woo me, I've made a whole bunch of videos, but I'm far more comfortable doing it because I've done a lot of them. Captions. I'll talk more about this next week, but suffice to say, the Web Accessibility Guidelines version 1.0, which is like from the early 2000s, transcripts would suffice. Web Accessibility Guidelines version 2.0 must have closed captioning for all video that is a part of anything on the web, period. Which means we're not Web Accessible 2.0 compliant. I'm not even talking about ADA. Okay, because for these training videos for faculty, I haven't been going and closed captioning those. So, I kind of have to process, is that something that we need to go and do? All videos need closed captioning. There will be some that I'll dig in my heels and say, no, you have to close caption this. The one that I'll say, okay, if you want to get away with not captioning your weekly transition videos, unless you know you have a student who needs that, because I'm expecting you to make those fresh each time. So that's not written in policy anywhere, but that's kind of my train of thought as far as best practices go. So, if you need written instructions for Camtasia, if you're a printout, need some screenshots, you can access a document that I made. Actually, we gave this training, I think, back in April. Of course, it's changed, but the instructions haven't changed. So you can access those there. And then, if you would like the presenter notes for this presentation, you can get that there. And then finally, we'd love for you guys to evaluate us if you're SNU faculty. Again, we want you to use the tinyurl.com SNU training form. If you're not SNU faculty, we'd like tinyurl.com SNU training evaluation, just so that we can hear what your thoughts are. Even if you are SNU and you want to go in and say, get somebody else to start doing trainings because we're tired of hearing from Jody every week, that's totally fine. You can go there and do that. So, again, I know this was like marathon, a whole bunch of information throwing at you in 35 minutes. So I would be happy to answer your questions if there are questions.
Could you go back a slide? Let me see.
Absolutely. Presenter notes. That's LXR capital TZ, I believe. Other questions?
Can you just clarify again, you said that the iPad will not play the Camtasia?
Correct.
Okay.
So
Unless we link it to the YouTube.
correct.
Okay.
So when you get a Camtasia address, it's going to be this huge, and I know you've seen these before. The last four is going to be .html. That's going to have Flash embedded in that HTML page. So if you go to that, if you access it on an iPad, it's going to say requires newest version of Flash Player. Any computer, you can go to it and it'll run fine, no matter the platform. But on iPhone or iPad, it will not work. So that is a consideration. We haven't, knock on wood, haven't run across that in a program yet that I've heard about where we've had a student that says, well, I'm taking this whole thing on an iPad, help me out. But we really want to go more and more towards accessibility for everybody that, absolutely possible. I think as the prevalence of mobile devices gets more and more, like we talked about last week with YouTube, that the number of people accessing YouTube using mobile devices has gone off the charts in the last 2 years. I think that's going to be the trend, is more and more people accessing on a mobile device.
If I put that to my YouTube account and then go there and use that link, then they could play it
Correct.
on their iPad.
You can use either one. And there are some disadvantages to using YouTube. You need to learn about the don't show related video that you can add to the end of the link. And it's actually just 5 characters. It'll automatically add that to your embed code for you if you know the right box to check. So if that's something that you need to know about, feel free to email me. I can make a quick little video and show that to you, or I can send you screenshots or whatever, talk you through.
That's not the right,
It's not the right one?
the link, it takes you to Force Boost.
Huh. I'm sorry. I'll
Oh,
fix
it's
that.
good, it's nice, I'm looking at a nice car.
That's weird.
Hey Jody,
Yes.
we have a question from the virtual audience.
Okay.
So as long as they upload it with YouTube closed captioning, then it will be compatible with their iPads, correct? Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Are you using a 1 there or an L?
We tried it with both.
You tried it with both and it takes you to the same place? no
Well,
matter
then
what?
one doesn't work.
Hmm.
The
That's
L,
weird.
the L takes the push.
Did they say repeat the question?
Yeah, Tom did.
So the question was, say the question again, Laura,
The
for me.
question was, as long as they upload it with YouTube closed captioning, then it's compatible with iPads.
So if you upload with YouTube closed captioning, is it compatible with the iPad? That's correct. You would need to get it from YouTube though, for your embed or your link or however you're going to share it with students. You would not go to the dashboard for Camtasia. It would be automatically sent to YouTube once you've edited those captions. So again, if you use anything with the YouTube account, either YouTube profile, either captioned or non-captioned, you're going to have it in your Camtasia dashboard and you're going to have it on YouTube. Capital I, thank you. Okay, so I misspoke. That's goo.gl/capital IXRTZ. Sorry, I was sending you guys to trying to sell you a Porsche. You know, if that's, it wouldn't be a horrible thing. If one of you guys bought a Porsche and let me drive it. Dr. Kaiser. Not naming any names. What else? What other questions do you guys have? Anything from the virtual audience?
I didn't see any information.
Okay, well, we'll pause here. We'll stop. I'll certainly hang around if you guys have other questions. I'm happy to answer those. I appreciate you guys coming. It's a little shorter this week. So you can, you know, go hide somewhere for 20 minutes before you have to go back to work. Thank you guys for coming. Appreciate you.
Tom wants to know what's next week's training.
Next week's training is specifically about sorry, I can't talk and click at the same time. Next week is specifically about closed captioning.